So for our first question, we ask, do you have any new ideas for the role? What do you want to change or fix from seeing how this year's treasure worked?
Yes, so mainly my program or the campaign that I want to lead with next year is to keep our foundation strong and not to add too many new programs to Treasure because Treasure doesn't have many programs. It's more of an internal role and more about maintaining finances and making sure that our foundation of Fusion stays strong and we're able to have enough funding for every program. One thing that I do want to do, as I mentioned in my platform, was collaborate with EVP and ProDev, and I want to collaborate with them and reaching out to companies for more funding and even industry professionals for maybe like a panel fundraiser. And yeah, and something that honestly I think Nico did an amazing job as treasurer. I think that our finances stayed very strong, and every board meeting he would tell us how much money that we still have in the accounts and how it's different from last year's. And I think that was really a great way to stay transparent, and which is something that I want to do. I also would like to have, maybe at the end of each quarter, I want to have a meeting with all of board to discuss our finances and clearly state how much money we have and how much I want to allocate to each program.
Thank you for that. So for your next question, we ask, if two events needed funding, but we didn't have enough to support both, how would you decide which to fund?
That's a really good question. I would want to maybe gauge interest in each program. I think that I would have the board members who want this program to create Google Forms and hub out an interest form at our general meetings and see which one has more interest and which one is more dire for our club. And that's how I would allocate which one I would allocate our funds more to. Also, I would want to bring all the board members into it and see which one that they think is more worth our time and money to put into that program.
So for this next question, we ask, can you critique the current treasurer?
Nico. I worked really closely with Nico because I am one of the sub-positions under him. And honestly, I think that he did a really amazing job as treasurer. He's very transparent with our board and kept our finances very strong. One thing that I do wish that he kept up with, though, was our sub-position meetings. We did have sub-position meetings at the beginning of summer where he would talk to us about our new ideas and stuff. But as we got busier throughout the year went on, we weren't able to meet very often, and I wish that we were able to have that force-controlled meeting so that we could bounce ideas off of each other and talk about budgeting and talk about finances and stuff, and I think that would have been really helpful. But overall, Nico was an amazing treasurer, and he supported me through all of my new ideas that I wanted to bring, so I hope I can be as good as a treasurer as Nico someday.
So for your next question, this one's asked specifically by Noah Tizon, and he says, when you say you wanted to collab with EVP and ProDev for corporate and alumni collabs, what exactly did you have in mind, and what are your goals for these collabs?
Yeah, so I think that we could do a better job of reaching out to companies for Fusion, and I know that you said in your EVP platform that you want to reach out for specific parts for projects and stuff. And I think that's a really great idea. And I kind of wanted to bring in maybe reaching out to industry professionals and seeing if they would like to have a panel here for Fusion. And it would be like a fundraiser to raise money for us, where we could get advising from industry professionals and learn about how the engineering industry works and ICS industry works. And I think that would be a really great job, a great thing to do for professional development. And yeah, but I think I would like as fundraising director this year, I wish that I worked closer with Dylan to talk about like sponsorships and companies that we could potentially reach out to. And I think that's something I would like to bring into the treasurer role.
Thank you for that. And so for our next question we ask, as Fusion continues to grow and more programs and events are added, there is an increased financial burden on the club. How would you approach this without increasing costs for general members? So this question says, as Fusion continues to grow, more and more programs and events are added. And with that comes the trade-off of increased financial burden on the club. How would you approach this without increasing costs for general members?
Yeah, so I think Fusion grows every year, and every year we've kept our prices the same for general membership, and obviously I would like to keep that the same. And I think that with new members, yes, we are going to get new programs, but that also means that we might lose some programs that haven't had much interest in the past years. And I think that is definitely a trade-off that we would have to decide, because Fusion only has so much money, and fundraising can only do so much. And I think that I would have to make those hard decisions of what new programs I would be willing to fund, or what new programs we would have to cut back on. But I think that everything is doable, and I would love to encourage everyone to develop these new programs. And maybe if we don't have enough money for these new programs, then I would want to encourage more fundraising and find a way on my own to help fundraise for this club, because I think that every program should get a chance at being developed into here, because I know we have so many diverse people and so many diverse programs that align with everyone, and I would like to keep that.
Thank you for that. And so for your next question we ask, could you further describe how you will incorporate your experiences with Google Sheets/Excel into the Fusion Treasurer role?
Yeah, so currently Treasure has a ledger, and that gets updated every week. And it just shows our transactions and everything. And I do have some good skills in Google Sheets from my engineering classes, and I think I would like to create individual financial trackers for each position and see how much finances their programs are using, and if I would need to cut back on lending money to some programs that may not be using all their funds that I've allocated to them. And I would just want to keep a tracker on that and see maybe after our first quarter what we can do better for the next quarter using Google Sheets, because that's a very important tool. I would want to have everything organized just so I wouldn't get jumbled, because seeing all these numbers on a screen, you're gonna get scared. Oh my gosh, we have so much money, what do I do with it? But I would want to put them into individual Google Sheet folders so I understand each piece of them.
Thank you so much for that. And so for your next question, feel free to take as much time as you need with this one. But Treasure requires a lot of resource management. If you had to choose one Fusion member to bring with you to a deserted island, who would it be and why?
I would say I would bring my mentor, Emily. Just because I know if I was on a deserted island, we would get through it together, and she would always keep me hyped up and make sure I'm prepared for anything.
Can we give one more round of applause for Emma?